Welcome to this week's edition of the Stony Brook Media Group News Show. I'm Anthony Johnson.
And I'm Aisha Diomande. We have a lot of news to cover today, starting with yesterday's widespread cell phone outage.
Over 70,000 AT&T customers reported outages yesterday morning, causing interruptions to cellular and internet services. Most disruptions were experienced in the cities of Houston, Chicago, Los Angeles, and Atlanta, according to the tracking site Down Detector. Customers of other carriers such as Verizon and T-Mobile also reported problems with their services. However, representatives for both companies said that the outages impacted those who were trying to contact people outside of their networks. Service has since been restored to all AT&T customers, but the cause of the outage remains unknown. The U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Agency said that there is no evidence of a cyber attack, and the Federal Communications Commission has launched an investigation into the matter.
Most people consider art and science to be separate subjects, but what happens when both come together to communicate messages? Stony Brook Media Group's Rafael Cruvinel has the story.
This sound is part of a piece by Irish artist Linda O'Keeffe. She named it Continents Drifting. O'Keeffe created this piece after 7 weeks in the White Cliffs of Dover, a huge stretch of land facing the ocean in the south of England. There, she collected ambient acoustic sounds in the natural environment. She recorded the sound of the ocean, the sound of crushing soil, and even the sound of seaweed changing over time as it dried. For the visual element, O'Keeffe zoomed into photographs of objects that she gathered across those 7 weeks.
The idea was that as you're listening and as you're watching, you're moving into the heart of the sound, the heart of the production of sound. So every element, every facet that I used, from seaweed to rock to soil to water, is something that you're moving into. And so that's what all of those images are about. And so when you're listening to the sound, the idea is that you're slowly coming from the outside into the heart of the source of sound production.
Linda's work will be on view through February 22nd here at the Paul W. Zucker Gallery Faculty Exhibition. She is a sound artist, a sociologist, and the chair of the art department at Stony Brook University. As part of her artistic research, O'Keeffe works in climate change and climate adaptation, using sounds as her main material in the fine arts field. Continents Drifting is an abstract project rooted in highly conceptual thinking. She's trying to understand how the planet is communicating with us over deep time.
I was trying to consider the landscape as an alternative life form, from my perspective, of having its own existence, its own thought processes, its own ways of communicating. But how can it talk to us? We exist, in a microsecond. We're like fireflies on its surface. We're here and gone. And is it aware of us as we are aware of it?
Ultimately, O'Keeffe is thinking about how the planet might be observing humanity. She wants to remind us that the planet isn't at risk because of our actions. Instead, we are at risk.
It will continue. It might be radically transformed because of our actions and behaviors, but it will continue. It has existed for billions of years.
This is an example of how art can interact with science and technology. As a sound artist focused on climate change, O'Keeffe believes that science and technology can benefit from collaborating with artists to communicate a message.
In our collaboration, we talk with scientists about how we can bring communities of interest into the conversation, into very complex conversations about science and technology in a way that perhaps they haven't thought of, in creative ways.
Reporting from the Zucker Gallery, I am Rafael Cruvinel.
Let's now turn to Stony Brook Media Group Zoe Busowitz with international news.
Thank you, Anthony. Tomorrow marks the 2-year anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and tensions remain high. Alexei Navalny, Russian-Ukrainian lawyer, anti-corruption activist, and opponent of Putin, died in prison earlier this week at the age of 47. Massive protests erupted both in Russia and around the world, with many Western governments accusing Putin and Russian authorities of orchestrating Navalny's death. Over 400 in Russia have been detained at events honoring Navalny's life. President Biden met privately with Navalny's widow and daughter, and today the United States rolled out extensive sanctions on Russia's financial sector and military-industrial complex. Kenya remains in mourning after the death of world marathon record holder Kelvin Kiptum, who died in a car crash earlier this month. The 24-year-old runner was set to make his Olympic debut in Paris this summer. Kiptum leaves behind a wife and child. This morning, Kenyan President William Ruto, head of World Athletics Sebastian Coe, and hundreds of dignitaries joined family and friends at the state funeral. A team of Australian scientists studying the Amazon rainforest have officially documented a new species of anaconda. The scientists were invited by the indigenous Ecuadorian Waorani people to observe snakes, quote, rumored to be the largest in existence. The newly identified northern green anacondas were observed to reach over 20 feet in length and estimated to be able to weigh over 1,000 pounds. As the Amazon remains threatened by massive deforestation and habitat loss, discovery of new species imbues the world with a little bit of optimism. Back to you, Aisha.
Thanks, guys. Next, we have our political corner segment with Vang Hao and Kate Muse.
Hello, Seawolves, and welcome back to another edition of the Political Corner. My name is Vyong Hao, and I'm here to bring you the latest developments in American politics. Kay and Muse will be joining us shortly, but first, Alabama's Supreme Court ruled this week that frozen embryos are considered to be unborn children under state law. The decision clarifies the language in an 1872 statute that allows parents to sue over the wrongful death of children to now include, quote, extrauterine children. The ruling has caused many to become concerned about the future of in vitro fertilization on a state and federal level. Several lawmakers are planning to introduce legislation that would redefine the court's ruling. Tim Melson, a Republican senator from Alabama, said he wants to clarify that embryos are not children until they're implanted into a woman's uterus. In addition to the backlash from this ruling, Chief Justice Tom Parker's concurring opinion has been under fire. This comes after he used God as part of his reasoning for the decision. He wrote, quote, "Their lives cannot be destroyed without effacing his glory." Parker's comments have brought into question of the degree of separation there is between the church and the state. Now, our very own reporter, Sky Crabtree, dives into the challenges journalists will face in covering the 2024 presidential election.
Hello, Seawolves. My name is Sky Crabtree, and I'm reporting from the Charles B. Wong Center here at Stony Brook's campus, where all of these wonderful people have gathered here to witness a panel discussion being hosted by a collaboration between the School of Communication and Journalism and the Diversity, Intercultural, and Community Engagement Office. The panel discussion is going to be all about the topics of reporting on a polarized 2024 election and what journalists and the publications that they work for can do to bring unbiased quality reporting to an American audience at a time of increasing polarization in the United States. I spoke with Musa Al-Garbi, the moderator of the event, to learn more about the unique circumstances surrounding the 2024 election.
So the 2024 election is slated to be a highly unusual race. Both of the candidates, according to polling and surveys, seem to be deeply unpopular. Both of them are extraordinarily old relative to a lot of presidential candidates of the past. And there are questions about their fitness for office and things like this.
One of the very first topics discussed was the decreased amount of trust present in American media today.
How the trust in the media varies along political lines, you can see that we started seeing significant polarization around the media, political polarization around the media after 9/11, kind of expanding with the rise of the Iraq War, and then with the election of Donald Trump, the polarization has grown to significant levels where Republicans and moderates tend to be increasingly distrustful of the media. Most of them do not trust the media, whereas a number of Democrats, most Democrats do.
The panelists also discuss how reporting published by news outlets affects the way that political figures and events are viewed.
A lot of people who seem to believe that whether or not a journalist appends to the end of the sentence, and that's bad, right, like is what drives it. So that if we're like, Trump wants to round up immigrants and put them in detention camps, comma, and that's bad, then everyone will be like, well, they said right there in the article, it's bad, right? But the actual power that you have in the media is that, like, you decide which topics to cover. You decide what I'm going to spend my day on.
And Laura Lindenfeld, Dean of the School of Communication and Journalism, told the Stony Brook Media Group that Al-Garbi's guidance was instrumental in setting up the event.
Having Musa Al-Garbi join our faculty was one of the reasons we initiated this event. Musa came in and said, hey, I think I could bring some really powerful people to the table to talk about what it's like for journalists to be involved in an election like the one that we're facing. And I said, Musa, go for it.
This has been Sky Crabtree reporting for the Stony Brook Media Group.
Thanks, Guy. Since we're talking about the president, the Biden administration is considering enforcing stricter immigration policies to decrease migrants crossing the U.S. southern border. This new policy would restrict the number of undocumented people crossing the border to claim asylum. If too many migrants illegally crossed in a certain time frame, then it would lead to a shutdown of the border entirely. The president's support of this comes after several states, including New York, have recently experienced a large influx of migrants sent from Texas. Critics are claiming that this move is legally questionable, as former President Donald Trump tried to enforce a travel ban back in 2018. Like Trump, Biden will most likely expect a legal battle if he is to enforce this new policy. Moreover, all of this comes ahead of the 2024 presidential election. Biden's differing stance on immigration has caused concern amongst Democratic voters, but also could greatly appeal to Republican voters for his solution to the border crisis.
Thanks, Kaiten. Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman signed an executive order on Thursday banning transgender athletes from competing in girls' and women's sports at county facilities. County Executive Blakeman said the ban is necessary to be fair to biological female athletes, which sparked instant outrage by trans rights advocates. When asked by reporters what spurs such a ban to be enacted, Blakeman could not cite any examples of such a thing occurring in Nassau County. New York Governor Kathy Hochul commented on the matter, accusing Blakeman of bullying transgender kids and saying that her office would enforce state laws designated to protect children. In a statement obtained by NBC New York Attorney General Letitia James said, "This executive order is transphobic and deeply dangerous in New York. We have laws that protect our beautiful, diverse communities from hate and discrimination of any and every kind."
There have been some major developments this week in the world of health, technology, and science. Let's turn to Stony Brook Media Group's Maya Duclay for more.
Thanks, Anthony. The United States Department of Justice appointed its first official artificial intelligence officer on Thursday. Jonathan Mayer, professor at Princeton University, will serve as the Chief Science and Technology Advisor and Chief AI Officer. Mayer will be advising Attorney General Merrick Garland on how to properly integrate AI into the department's criminal investigations and prosecutions. The department already uses AI in cases like tracing opioid sources and analyzing tips submitted to the FBI. Mayer was appointed to reduce the dangers that come with the use of the rapidly expanding technology. New York City is suing 5 social media networks, accusing them of fueling a mental health crisis among young users. The lawsuit claims that Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Facebook, and YouTube are all responsible for a rise in mental health issues. These may include depression, eating disorders, and suicidal ideation. Through the lawsuit, Mayor Eric Adams says he is looking to recover the $100 million spent on mental health programs and services each year. Adams previewed his plan during the 2024 State of the City address. The Department of Surgery at Stony Brook Medicine celebrates the prominent milestone of marking its 50th year anniversary. Founded in 1974, Dr. Harry Suroff, founding chair of the department, built the key divisions like gastrointestinal surgery and set the stage for vascular surgery and transplantation. Now, 50 years after the founding, the Department of Surgery has been able to provide high-level patient care, advanced medical education, and groundbreaking research. Back to you, Aisha.
Thanks, Maya. And next we have the Media Minute with Christopher Schultz and Thomas Pardo.
Welcome to the Media Minute, where you get all your updates on pop culture. My name is Christopher Schultz, and we have a lot to cover for this week's segment. The 77th Annual BAFTA Awards ceremony took place last Sunday at the Royal Festival Hall in London, England. Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer won big with 13 nominations and 7 wins, including Best Film, Best Director, Best Actor, and Best Supporting Actor. At the end of the ceremony, however, a social media prankster appeared to have walked on stage illegally with the creators of Oppenheimer. The unnamed intruder appeared to stand between actor Cillian Murphy and producer Charles Roven. He was apprehended after the show by security. Now on to our weekly music roundup. During the Super Bowl, Beyoncé announced an upcoming country album. Along with this announcement, she surprised fans with 2 new songs from the album, which are titled Texas Hold'em and 16 Carriages. This took social media by storm and has been dominating the charts. Another artist that just released music is Korean girl group Twice. The album is titled With Youth, and the title track One Spark will be performed this Friday on The Today Show. Make sure to tune in to these highly anticipated albums, because I will. And now we have Thomas to give us the latest updates in the world of sports.
One of the many NHL events taking place during the season happened at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, the Stadium Series. In the first of the 2 games during the weekend, the New Jersey Devils cruised past the Philadelphia Flyers 6-3. In the second game, the New York Rangers mounted a 3-goal comeback and defeated the New York Islanders 6-5 in overtime. It was the first time a team came back from a 3-goal deficit in an outdoor game. The event drew a large showing as there was a combined attendance of over 150,000 people over the 2 games. Chris, it was an exciting, action-packed weekend, even though my favorite team, the Islanders, were unable to pull out the victory.
Yes, absolutely, Tom. I completely agree. Let's hope that next season provides even more excitement to these games. And now, back to Anthony and Aisha.
Thank you for tuning into this edition of Stony Brook Media News Group Show. I'm Aisha Diamande.
And I'm Anthony Johnson. We'll see you next week.